G'day traders, welcome to the blog for Monday the 11th of June. First of all, apologies, just missed a couple of the days from last week. Just had a fairly hectic week and so a couple of those got missed, but we're certainly back on board now. Just making another little change as well. Wanted to really just focus on the relationship between the buyers and sellers. So go over the 5-minute chart, just talk about the general relationship and I guess trends, and then look at the 1-minute chart and look closer at these power points and power fades and have a closer look at this relationship between the buyers and sellers that's going on, rather than focusing on individual systems, which I was doing in the past. And what I think was getting too specific. Rather provide this as a bit of an educational tool, and certainly then specific systems and results can be followed in the trading room, and those results are all made available in the documents folder in the trading room as well. So just want to really just focus on these buyers and sellers and trends in these daily wrap-up sessions. So here we've got the daily chart here. This big red candle here is the one we're talking about here. So an interesting one. We had a day that in the cash market, I'll show you soon, we sold off pretty much the whole day. The buyers didn't really have much of a chance, but it's a day where we gapped the open of the new week and pushed up high. And you can see we've broken up through this fairly significant resistance level here. The fact it's in pre-market makes it a little bit, I guess, less significant. If it had all of a sudden start popping up here during the cash market, that'd give the buyers a lot of momentum to maybe start going up and looking back up around these highs up here. But they popped up, it was more of a gap up, and then they've got straight back down. And the sellers really showed their strength today by pushing down and getting well away from that level. So even though the buyers had a little moment there, the sellers quickly stamped that out. Here it is on the 5-minute chart. Basically, this is the open of the Monday. You can see we've actually gapped quite a decent bit from 23 to 37, so that's a 15-14 point gap, which you rarely see. So that's quite massive, quite impressive. But like I said, the sellers quickly stamped that out and pushed down, and then through, and here's the opening of the cash market, and through the opening of the cash market we pushed down as well. So here we go, some strong sellers. You can see no pullback on the predictive whatsoever till well and truly until 11 o'clock. We had a bit of a bobble here where they thought about having a bit of a retracement. That was quickly pushed lower, where then we started to get the not far before lunch we started to get this pullback here. So looking at how strong the other markets are pulling back through this here, all the markets were holding quite low. The Russell was something that was a little bit more keen on the downside, and certainly indicating that these sellers were going to come back at some stage and maybe not push so much higher. You can see we've pushed down, pushed up here, then eventually got a 5-minute sell here. So this 5-minute sell certainly looked promising. The other markets were holding the downside. I thought it was definitely possible for the market to come down these lows and maybe even push through them. From there, it had a good go, didn't quite get there, and then it started breaking up. So when it starts breaking up like this and pushing past this swing high, this is normally an area that will go on with it, and you'll quite often see then all of a sudden this new trend start. That wasn't the case. We popped up and then come back down. So this is again quite strong evidence that sellers were around today, and seeing strong areas where buyers had an opportunity and the sellers to come in quite strongly and stamp that out straight away is quite some strong evidence that there's definitely some sellers about. Again, we got another cross down a predictive average here. By this stage, the moving average is pointing up, and by now we still hadn't pushed back down. What we had done is starting to break up through these support levels here. So still starting to think, well, buyers have got a bit of a chance here. But it wasn't until they basically broke down again that showed that a couple of buying levels or a couple of buying opportunities got stamped out really quickly, and it was quite evident that the sellers were here to make an impression. Here they've pushed lower and they've started breaking through this previous swing low here. We've popped back. Second little area here is breaking down. So this is a bit of a breakout area. We've got the predictive crossing down at the same time. What is happening here is the Nasdaq was actually sitting a lot lower. It had already significantly broken this second low point that the market started making. And all the other markets were hanging around this area too, so it became quite evident that this market was looking to push past this point, which is exactly what they did. Till the end of close, and you can see it's just all one-sided action on the 1-minute charts. So there we go, 3 really strong power points on the downside, popped up, This PowerPoint's easily held as far as retracement PowerPoint. Again showing how strong these sellers are. Hit another couple on the downside. Again popped up. Nothing pushing back up through these PowerPoints. Really a strong indicator that there's definitely sellers about and they're strong. As far as power fading the downside with any of these, it's ones that are a little bit more risky. I mean, in hindsight, some look like they've worked quite well, but you just don't know how long these sellers are going to last for. And I guess once you start pushing down like this, you are expecting some stage maybe the buyers to come back and have a go and looking for some upward pressure, and then a pullback and maybe a power fade on the upside. But it wasn't until basically up around here that some of these buying opportunities that we talked about on the 5-minute chart started to fail, and it became evident that maybe the sellers were going to hang around all day. So coming back here, we can see this level push. So we're pushed up through here, then all of a sudden this power point's held here. So we still got to break through this level here, which they hadn't done at this power fade yet. But once we got above that level, which didn't quite do, then power fading options are certainly the go. We've come back a second time, then up through here, started pushing up again. So again, this could have been a power fade option, but if you're watching the other markets, you would have seen that that's probably not the best option. All the other markets were holding quite low, and it was probably the ES was the only one that was really trying to push up. And when you got things like the Nasdaq, Russell hanging quite low and not breaking up through these areas here, so you look for the other markets to see if they're breaking these same corresponding areas, and then that makes these power fades to break up through the upside quite high percentage of working. But when you see other markets hanging right back off it, it's a big warning to stay clear of this, and it's indicating that these power fades to the upside are not going to work. And then all these things start working on the downside again. Basically, this is the second trend push down after getting that first pullback area back there. We've pushed lower. These power points here, we're breaking all on the downside and getting a new trend on the downside and pushing lower. Is this little area here where we had the second pullback? Well, you can see this equivalent area on the 5-minute chart here. So basically we got an imaginary line through here, and it became quite evident that this market was going to push down through that as all the other markets were breaking quite strongly through this same point on all the other charts. You look at this, all the chart markets are pushing down and looking really strong on the downside, and of course they kept on finishing or pushing it down, and that's where they finished for the day. So that's a wrap up for Monday, and we'll speak to you guys on Tuesday.